You know what happened to it.
It became my people's keeper.
Whatever happened to, am I my brother's keeper, huh? You know what happened to it.
It became my people's keeper. A moment of information, impartation, and inspiration to uplift, encourage, and most importantly, empower. So am I my brother's keeper? Yes. Am I my sister's keeper? Yes. Oh yes, I am my people's keeper.
What up, what up, what up, what up? What's up?
What's up, my people? What up?
What's going on, my people? Listen, I am so excited about today's episode, and I'm grateful to God for another opportunity for us to come and to host another episode of My People's Keeper. I want to give a shout out to definitely 119 Media Group and all the family on the podcast. Shout out to you all, and definitely a shout out to you all, our listeners that are listening to us today. Listen, baby, definitely want to just introduce, but I'm grateful, man. We got a message last week, man, from someone in Maine, all the way in Maine, talking about how they enjoy the podcast. Okay. I thought that was really, really big. But definitely, I just wanted to plug that in there, man. So definitely, we are reaching some people across the globe, across the state, amen, or across the nation.
Awesome. Thank y'all for listening.
Absolutely. Well, again, I'm William Robinson Jr. I'm with my lovely and beautiful co-host, my queen, the queen of our castle. That is no other than Patrice Robinson.
Hello. I'm glad to be back in the building. I am Patrice Robinson, yours truly, but you can call me Treese.
Oh, Tracy, that's my baby. Listen, we want to go ahead and get right on into it. This week, we are still focusing on what are we up against as a community? What are we up against as a Black community? What are we up against just as a nation as a whole? Definitely, we talked about police on Black brutality. We've talked about Black on Black crime. We talked about sex trafficking. And this week, we are dealing with poverty.
Poverty.
Yes, poverty. Yes, it's something that really, when we really start looking at it and really start talking about it, you start looking at some things a little bit differently. I was telling my wife earlier before, and I'm not saying that, we are, but when we start looking at research and start looking at information, I never knew I lived in a rural poverty area, if that makes sense. And so because and I believe poverty is a mindset. So that's why I say I would not have known based upon the statistics and the numbers, based upon where I'm from, Darlington County, Hartsville, South Carolina itself, that I lived in poverty, because it was just never felt. I think it's a feeling. I think it's a way that you handle it. But definitely understanding what poverty is and what poverty means.
So let us define poverty: the state of being extremely poor, the state of being inferior in quality or insufficient in amount.
Wow. So the state of being extremely poor. Insufficient
in amount.
Insufficient in amount, and based upon what you have. Wow. All right, so let's get right into it. When we start talking about the state of mind, or not only state of mind, but talking about what we have and that relates to numbers, we want to go ahead and give some numbers on what shows as relates to the insufficiency, to the amount, and pretty much being poor.
So let's talk about the great old state of South Carolina.
That's where we are. That's
where
we
are. So the population in South Carolina is about 5 million people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So with that population, guess the number of that lives in poverty.
Out of 5 million people. That's right?
Yeah, 5 million.
How many are in poverty? I would say, before you even give the number, 3 million.
So according to statistics, and it says that 692,744 people are living in poverty.
Oh, wow.
Of course, the leading race, African American at 23%,
Mm.
followed by the Asian community 10.7%. Well,
Asian community.
that's what this
I mean, I
thing
know
says.
I know what you're saying. But
Then we have the Latino community. They're at 22%. So they're right behind African Americans. Native Americans, 13.8%. And white American is 9.3%, according to Talk Poverty.
wow. So blacks in South Carolina, the poverty rate at 23%. And you said Asian was what percent?
10%.
10%. So, oh wow. Okay, you gave that number second. So 23% black, 22% Latino. Then we go to
Asian American 10%. Then
Native
Native American
American.
13.8%.
and then our Caucasian family 9.3%.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So poverty is real in America. I have friends that are school teachers, and some of the stories that I hear, there are so many students in high school who have full-time jobs to help
their family.
To help the family.
Yeah.
So we got mom, dad that is working, or if they living with their grandmother who may be on a fixed income. But everybody has to work to make the family whole, to make sure food is on the table, make sure rent is paid, make sure the lights are on. So we're looking at a student that's in high school who should be focusing on their academic,
Right.
who or maybe want to play sports or want to worry about dating or hanging out with their friends, but their life consists of, when I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna go to school, and then next I'm going to this full-time job.
Wow. That's So you're looking at trying to help the family survive. And when you start looking at the dynamics of the structure of the family, like you said, some families, some students live with their grandparents or their grandmother based upon the situation. And a lot of times when we start talking about poverty-stricken areas, you're looking at the family structure. And when we look at the family structure is not what we would consider to be what is conducive to what the structure that God has put in place as relates to, husband, wife, and children, because of other things like that we've dealt with when it comes down to crime, when it comes down to individuals being locked up, being in jail, not only locked up in jail, those that have been to death, family members that have left, fathers, parents, that have gone on. So you have individuals that pretty much, when you start talking accent of their history and their life story, when you talk about children, teachers that we know, like you said, friends of teachers that you see some their parents are not there. They're pretty much, some are on their own at some time.
Yeah, some kids are what's the term? I think emancipated, like already, meaning they take care of themselves. They live by themselves. They work full-time like we shared, and they have to handle their own responsibility because, for one, mom or dad or maybe on drugs or whatever. And so it just constant issues. We are faced with so many different things as a culture, as people. Will it ever be normal?
Right. And I guess, and I guess sometimes when you look at that, it's still a point to where, as Ari said, we still got to do something. We still got to be able to give some type of encouragement, some type of way in order for them to push through, because you're talking about children that are up against things of that nature, and are still, progressing and still are being successful. Even her telling us those stories, you have students that are still able to, go beyond, their circumstance or their situation and still go on to be successful, even though they have to work extra hard to do it. And
that's awesome. I'm so glad that they're still able to excel with the casualties and different things that they face. But let's look at this. Why is it like that? Why is poverty existing? Why is it happening? I mean, for one, let's look at the minimum wage rates in South Carolina, where it costs the minimum wage minimum wage in South Carolina is $7.25.
Yeah.
Who can survive off $7.25? Let's just look at a household of four. So say if it's mom, dad, two children, a dog, grandmother,
Right.
just in case circumstances like that. So $7.25. And let's say mom and dad work.
Right. It both
How
work.
can you survive if you're making $7.25?
And the cost of living.
$7.25. And let's say you work 40 hours a week. Y'all, let me make sure I do my math right.
You do it again.
$7.25 times 40 hours a week is $290 a week, right? And let me multiply that by 4. So
Right.
say you work 40 hours every week. That is $1,160 a month. Who can survive off that?
Right.
Like, really? Okay, your rent itself, just say you get your monthly check. That's $1,160. Let's say
The bare minimum rent is about $600.
let's say it's $600.
Let's just say six.
So now you got $560 left. But then let's talk about this $200 light bill. All right, that's gonna give you $360. Oh, don't say you got a car payment or car insurance or the kids gotta eat at school.
Yeah.
Well, you might get reduced lunch because you
Based
make
upon,
$7. You might get that.
You might.
But still, you have to get groceries in your house. So let's say your grocery bill probably maybe $150. You're looking at $210. Then let's say you got car insurance. I don't know, maybe it's $150. Well, now you got $60 left. And then what? School fees.
Yeah.
The child wanna, you wanna do some entertainment. You want
Movies,
the child to
wanna
be
go-
involved with something, but now you're at $0 because it just don't make
It makes
sense.
sense. And then because you don't have enough poverty, we're talking about the poverty stricken mentality, then you go and you get a loan against your car, or you get a payday loan,
Or these and security finance companies, you go and the cycle just go on and on. You was still in debt, because what happens is you go and you get a loan. Say you get $1,000 to help your family. Okay, it will help because sometimes you make decisions at the spur of the moment because you got to do what it takes to take care of your family.
Right.
So say you go get a loan, but now you have to add that to your monthly bill.
Right.
So now you say you pay back $150 a month from getting that loan. Well, that's definitely going to take away from the household. So you're living in poverty. You barely making ends meet. Then you try to go out and find ways to make those ends meet.
Right.
But is the system really designed for us to get out of debt?
No.
Because it's a repeating cycle.
That's right.
If you rate, if minimum wage increase,
then we probably can see a
it
difference.
can help.
Can help.
It would definitely help.
Yeah, because you got to look at this. Even when we're talking about numbers, and hopefully this will help because it has to change. You have to change the pattern, and the pattern has to change for you. And I know it's hard to change a habit, a constant habit that you've been constantly doing. To say, okay, when you sit down and look at getting $1,000 from a loan company, and you're only making $1,160 a month with the minimum wage that we're talking about in South Carolina, $7.25. So imagine you get the $1,000. Ain't no telling what you do with the $1,000 once you get it. Because again, did you in your mind, okay, I got it. Now I need to go ahead and I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna spend this and spend on that. So now because you got the $1,000, everybody now is anxious to spend it instead of say, okay, well, let me figure out what's best to work with. So by the time the next month come, or when it's time to make the payment, ain't no telling how much the payment is. So say you got $1,000, say the payment is $135 or something like that. Now you got to find a way to take that out of everything else,
the $1,100
that you get, to try to manage that and to try to continue to go, to try to maneuver from there. And and then when you try to get another job, then you start talking about more time. Not only weighing on your body and weighing on your mind, but time away from your kids and your family that they need as well. So,
and then that's when what they call it, the latchkey generation comes.
Latchkey generation.
Because the kids have to go home and take care of themselves because mom and dad working multiple jobs to make sure they have a roof over their head.
Keep things afloat.
I definitely understand. And I know some people may think, well, they need to get a higher education. Maybe they need to go get degrees and different things. I can tell you about 10 friends that have college degrees and don't even use them.
Right.
They're doing something totally.
You got 10.
It's a lot more.
Right.
But people that I know for sure
Right.
that have college degrees and do not use them. And because, if I had to go back, if I had to do it all over again, I will stop at my bachelor's degree. If I had to do it all over again. But here's the thing. I work in my field. I'm definitely using my degree.
Oh, yes. Wonderful.
But here is the thing. It took me a while to get a decent salary, if that makes sense.
Had to work towards, yeah.
And so even though you have that bachelor's degree and you have that master's degree, and you have the thing, I can't think right now, but you have the grid that says if you got this experience and you got this experience, you got this degree, then you make this amount of money or whatever. Or then you get hit with, you got the degree, but you don't have the experience. And so, with some of the social service industries, they love the 30 range. Like they love to start you out in that 30 range, and it takes forever to get out. I have a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, and the past 2 years, I also had
got 2 master's degrees.
I didn't want to tell them that.
Okay.
For the past year, I wanted to. The past year, I went back to work in retail to help make ends meet or whatever. Right. Retail making $8.25 an hour to help.
Yeah, what we're trying to do. Yeah.
To help. And so me having a degree, and I think I got a decent salary, but still having to go and get something else to still help make ends meet, letting you know that there is poverty does exist, and it can affect so many people. I don't care what walk of life that you're in, but let's look at it from the system aspect of it. Like, you have to pay people more money. That's the one thing. In order to eradicate poverty, you're gonna have to pay people more money. And I know you went from the angle that it's a mindset, but you can have the right mindset, but because of the system, you still struggle.
Absolutely.
Or because you made decisions to try to make your life better, like going to college and getting student loans. Now you got to deal with that debt.
Yeah. I think, and I think you have to, when we start talking about looking at, the whole picture of it, and you're talking about making minimum wage, but then you're also talking about, doing what you can to make more. Then you got to look at also the cost of living and where you live at, because even in the state of South Carolina, when you start talking about where you live at, or where we live, or where we come from, and we start talking about how certain people are able to do certain things. Well, in certain areas, rent, or mortgages are a little bit lower than what we may say in Columbia, South Carolina, or in Charleston, South Carolina, in Greenville, South Carolina, versus if we go to areas, like Bamberg County or, Lee County, different areas like that.
Rural versus
urban. Yeah. So then it's like, how do we maneuver through the system itself? So again, all of us want luxury. We want to live in great and good things. Absolutely. I believe, I enjoy that, the finer things in life. But I also think that when we start talking about how can we eradicate, poverty, then it start talking about, okay, then where we're going to live at.
I wouldn't mind living in the country. Let me tell you, it's cheaper to live in the country.
Right.
But here is the problem with the country, or AKA the rural area.
Right.
The problem is less access. It's less access there. I'm a prime example. My mom lives in Barnwell County. She had emergency surgery a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So my plan was to go there and help take care of her. And because I work from home, I can do that.
This is good.
But I need internet.
Come on.
So I have been on the phone with AT&T, Atlantic Broadband, HughesNet, all of these places to try to get internet where my mom lives.
Right.
But guess what? She's not in the service area. Then the company that said they will service her area, it sucks. I researched, I talked to people, it doesn't work. Even though they have this in their house, they have one bar. I work on a computer that has software. I need 5 bars. So we had to work it out where I go on weekends and other family come through in the week to help her out. But the problem is, even though rent is cheap there, even though mortgages are cheap there, access is limited. Okay, you have the children have problems with internet or whatever. That's not in the area. Right. Okay, say if you work or whatever, but you don't have a car. Well, there is no bus line. There's no cab service. Yeah. There is none of those to get you where you need to go. Right. So then you look on the flip side, and then you live in the urban area where you have the bus line, where you have the resources. Right. But then rent is high and mortgage is very expensive. Skyrocket. And then you can find cheaper rent, but then you are in certain neighbor areas. Right. And when you have children, or it's just certain things you just not going. So again, all of it goes back to systematic, to the system that we are living in. When you got all these things that we're up against, then you start having different mindsets. So if you put people in the place to where there's no job opportunities, it's going to cause more crime rate. That's what study has already shown, that when there's no access to be able to get the means that you need in order to take care of your family, to take care of what you need, then we start seeing individuals tapping into other things that will cause criminal involvement, that then puts them in a place to where now you have all the spread of killing, you have all the spread of drugs. Now you got people getting robbery, theft, poverty. I'm sorry.
Go no, you good. Go ahead.
When you talk about poverty, most people is money, needing money. Lights, rent. Let's look at basic necessities: lights, a roof over your head, and transportation to get back and forth to work. Right. Let's look at that. Just like those things. But this is not just a South Carolina issue. This is definitely America issue. There are 34 million people in the United States that are living in poverty. Certain states are better off than, certain states are better off, and they started by increasing minimum wage, and which will help. But another thing I think will help.
What's that?
Not only increase minimum wage, make healthcare
affordable.
Make healthcare free for all, because this is what happens. You get a job, right? All right. For a family of 4, for my family, I put us on my jobs plan, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So for a family of 4, it was probably about $500 a month. And it may be more. I maybe forgot. But anyway, $500. So that's $500 additional dollars being taken out of your paycheck each month to live comfortable. So it's like the more you make, you got taxes on top. You take out taxes.
Don't take that.
You got taxes on top. You're taking out health care. Then you got to put into your 401k. I mean, you doing so much. And then when the net come, you just be like, what I work for? Right. And then affordable housing. That's if you do those 3 things: increase minimum wage, make health care at least free, free for all, and affordable housing, you might help eradicate poverty. It will help.
And I guess this may be a foolish question. Not saying foolish, but because we know what the system is designed to do. So even if we're talking about having, definitely we know that the United States of America can do it. They can make healthcare free. They can do it. But because of how the system is structured, they won't do it. They'll never do it. Because again, as long as we continue to keep having sick people, that's going to keep us creating more money to make more meds. That's going to continue to keep people, continue to create other things that causes other issues and other problems, to create the chemo machines, to create, this particular medicine. Say it's supposed to help, but in return, it's just constantly creating a cycle that's destroying us. I mean, that's just true facts. So it's like, what then are we able to do, or what are we able to actually do to help, even though we don't want, when we talk about luxury and what we see, it's hard to be disciplined to turn certain things off in order for your mindset to say, okay, I'm just not going to allow certain things. I'm going to do my best. I might have to plant my own garden. I might might have to plant my own vegetation. I might have to say I'm not going to, support certain things, but I'm just going to do certain things naturally. I mean, that's just some of the, when we start talking about the system versus, trying something that's going to work or benefit the people. So when we start talking about that, we understand it's a systematic problem. When you start talking about how California probably is the highest when it comes down to the amount of the amount of wages that we make across the state. Matter of fact, is actually what the state of Washington. State of Washington is $13.50. Now, South Carolina is not the only state that actually, gives $7.25.
Right,
We're talking about, probably about 18, as I'm counting, probably about 18 alone. So you got South Carolina, you got Georgia, you got North Carolina, you got Virginia, you got Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Kentucky. You got Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Nevada, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Iowa, Wisconsin, $7.25. You see how many states are there?
Mhm.
That's half. That's half. I don't even think that's half. That's majority. That's like majority. That's ridiculous. And you looking at these, especially when you talk about Texas, as big as Texas is, and the population there. And I know
and that culture is a lot of Latinos in that community as well. So look, I don't know what to say when it comes. Like, there is no quick fix, of course.
Right.
There is no quick fix, but something needs to be done because this is just
so something needs to be done.
Much.
Because again, we understand that when we start talking about assistance and getting help and getting aid, it is just something that's supposed to be temporary in order to get us to a place in a better state to live comfortably.
But it can't be temporary when you're not giving
the people the wages that they need.
Giving the wages or giving the jobs. Now, of course, I'm all in favor of increasing the wages.
Mm-hmm.
But I also
create your own. But go ahead. You go ahead and finish going down that idea. Go ahead.
But also, I want people to understand when you talk about the poverty mindset. So I think a person is more in poverty. The mindset is more in poverty if they sit home and complain.
Yeah.
Versus going out and trying.
All right, let's get off the numbers. Let's go into impartation now. Come on, go ahead.
So therefore, look at this. Yes, the minimum wage is $7.25.
Uh-huh.
Some places you go to may start you out $1 or $2 more. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I have seen so many places in the last year, like coming off the pandemic, so many businesses that are hiring. Mm-hmm. From retail to restaurant to hotels, DJJ,
right.
All of these places that are hiring got all of these openings. But why not? Why people not applying? People, I understand. You know your worth. I understand that talk. I understand it.
Right.
But this is how my worth. I got degrees and I do work in my field, but I knew I had to make that $8.25 for 2 years to do what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Because I know what my paycheck goes to. I know what that covers, but additional had to come.
Right.
And so it was no pride in that equation. I accept. Right. I'm coming in, and if you need me extra, I'm coming too, because I'm gonna milk it to make it work for me.
Right.
And after it was over, I left. But it served my purpose. So I believe when it comes to the mindset, if you sitting there complaining and not even trying making the attempt to go out and apply for these jobs. And then I understand the whole mindset when they was doing the whole unemployment and giving you extra. Yes, you was making more getting the unemployment. So I understand why people didn't go get jobs.
Right. But what did you do with it? Because it's all about, when it comes back, it's all about how you manage it. Right. So when I was talking about that word, I was thinking about when we're talking about poverty. I think it's a poison. It's poisonous oppression, validating or violating your eternal wealth that God is trying to give you. So when we talk about the poverty mindset, and I'm going a little spiritual on this right here. John chapter 10 verse 10 says, and the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. But this is the A clause. A lot of people like it says, and I come that they might have life and have it more abundantly, which means when Jesus talk about you having a relationship with him and you start having a renewed mind in him, having a thought in him, it begins to change your mind from that which was from where you used to be or where you currently was to something better. I'm not saying that everybody's supposed to be a millionaire or a billionaire, but I think God intends for everybody to live comfortably, if that make any sense. So when we start talking about living comfortably, you're living you're living within your means with enough to be able to manage to invest, to actually to be able to double or triple whatever you have to do to manage your means in order for you to become better. So I just think that when we start talking about, the mindset of individuals, how we're going to change it, we then got to start talking about the discipline to be able to maneuver certain things and to change certain things. That's just my thought process on that.
You know what? I'm just not.
Go ahead.
I get it. I definitely get it. And so I also, on the spiritual aspect, I always go, and this is my favorite. I can't, faith without works is dead.
Right.
So I believe that's his plan for us. And I know that's his plan also, but I know I got to work to get to it happens. I know I have to be available for it to happen. So therefore, if I'm just sitting home complaining and nothing is happening, then So again, it's it don't just stop here.
Right. So we're going to that.
You gotta work it. So you work what you have until better come, or you work what you have until you develop that plan that's going to get you and your family out of poverty or get you all to the next level or whatever. But you got to work. You got to work it. For he's giving you power to gain wealth. And in order to gain that wealth, you got to work. You got to work the faith that's in you. You got to work the plan that's in you, and you got to utilize your hands. I think that these hands, when I talk about these hands right here, these hands can do more than just wave at people, and these hands can do more than just wait for somebody to give you something. These hands can build something. These hands can take advantage to work some things out to make life a whole lot better for you. I just think it has to start within the mindset to do. There's no excuse. But when we start looking at the numbers and what we're dealing with, we got to find a way to try to make this thing kind of level out. I mean, and again, everybody's not going to get there, but for those that want to do that, we got to do what we can. And again, based upon these numbers, when you start looking at and again, it ain't about. We can look at the numbers when it's based upon colors, because everybody that we've called out on this list are battling with some type of poverty somewhere. And so when we start talking about the areas, when it comes down to to food stamps, to different things of that nature, what are the numbers that they're showing when it comes down to SNAP benefits and when it comes down to that. So let's look at the people that's receiving welfare. And this is South Carolina's information. So for welfare, you got 18,700 people that's on welfare. Then the SNAP benefits. That's the people who are receiving food stamps. That's 371,443 receiving SNAP benefits. But let's look at that. Let's say you're a family of 4 and your household income is probably like, let's say combined, it could be roughly $60,000. Right. Well, you ain't gonna get food stamps because by statistics, you make too much. Right. But where that money is going. You know that sometimes it ain't enough for food in the house, and you just stretching and maneuvering, trying to make something happen. But we have all these things in place. We have food stamps, we got WIC, we got welfare, we got these low income home energy assistance program. You got Medicaid. You got the Head Start program. You got all these things to help people that are living in poverty. However, you make the requirements so difficult for some people to get involved. Now, these benefits was designed for temporary assistance,
Right.
but because you're not making permanent jobs or you're not making permanent wages look better, because you're not making South Carolina and the United States as a whole better, then these people are on these programs permanent. So you're saying, you're not supposed, people being on these programs for 10, 15, 20 years, well, they're on it because nothing has changed in the system itself to make it better.
No changes.
So from the South Carolina minimum wage has been $7.25 for so long, and the cost of living has increased. I remember
20 years.
I remember when I got my first apartment, and I had roommates. So my first apartment, and we were in probably considered decent area, maybe. I don't know. It was rough. We heard gunshots all the time. Anyway, whatever the case is.
Still in the same neighborhood.
We paid $600 for rent during that time. This was by over 15 years ago.
It was $600? That was split?
It was $600 total. We paid $200 a piece.
I think we had a time. Like a little more than that.
I know what we paid. Okay.
It was ridiculous.
So we, paid $200 a piece, and then we split lights and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We probably thought we was doing something because we split the cost.
Right.
But then when I became a real adult with real kids wanting to live in a better neighborhood,
right,
and rent went from measly $600 to $1,900, I said, "What in the world? What is this?
Right.
What is this? What?" And then, so rent more and mortgages is cheaper, but when you made a decision and damage your credit, you got to get that fixed to do better. That's a whole nother topic. So so now you're faced with making a decision of, do I live in this area that my car might get broken into, my house might get broken into, I might get robbed, I might get shot, but my rent gonna be $400. Do I decide to live in that area, or I'm gonna go in this area where it's gonna be a gated community, you're gonna have security, you're gonna take a code to get in, the schools are better.
The difference with some of those communities that rent is $400. If you grew up there, then that's a difference versus you visiting, you trying to seek somewhere to live.
Right. If you don't look, if I
know you was, it's gonna be tough. It's real.
Look, all I know is rent has increased, but minimum wage is still the same.
Lord have mercy. Wow.
Jobs in the fast food industry has increased. Maybe retail has increased, but still minimum wage
is still the same.
I mean, so what do you expect people to do?
They say, listen, we ain't working for that amount no more. That's what them people say.
And you know what?
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
That's what
I ain't got nothing to do with what you say, but that's the mindset. I'm not working. This is what I hear. I'm not working for that little bit of money. I know my worth. I know this. I'm gonna do that. I know all that. But then when the eviction notice get on the door and you don't, I mean, what you gonna do then? Some people don't have mama and daddy to go back home.
They ain't got them. Mama and dad ain't there.
And then if you look at another story, mom and dad lost their home as well because of the decline of the economy.
Right.
So everybody's struggling.
But
look, y'all, I got
even though it's serious, is even though we're talking about a serious topic,
this is a very
it still is when you look at it, it's funny how you're gonna say, okay, people need to work and people need to do X, Y, and Z, but you ain't giving people enough money to work, and then the cost
and you ain't giving people affordable housing in decent neighborhoods.
I ain't even giving them free health care.
And because look, I'm one of them people. I would go to my computer and I would complete an application knowing I ain't eligible. But I would do it because in my mind, I think I might just be the one to get through. Like they might need a quota or something. So I'm going to just go ahead and fill out this application.
Slide through the cracks.
Slide through the cracks. And so if that be it, but what I was going somewhere.
Go ahead. You good?
I was going somewhere with this. Okay, I think I was trying to say, you're not giving people affordable housing in decent neighborhoods. And so certain neighborhoods that possibly is decent, there's an income cap.
Right.
So I remember we were trying to get this apartment. Nice neighborhood, newly developed. We go, oh, you can't make no more than $34,000.
Right.
Well, my Lord.
How you gonna tell me?
But I can afford it.
Right.
You make too much. Well, what kind of foolishness is that? So it's like, where do help me understand. Help me.
Please.
And when we get in situations like this, I always bet, Lord help Jesus. Because if
that's my late grandma used to say. My late grandma,
Lord help Jesus.
You know it's bad when Lord need to help Jesus. You know?
Because I just don't understand. I do not understand. I have so many stories because for one, I'm in the social service industry. So I have so many stories. I know a mom who 3 kids, a school teacher trying to get WIC for her child and made $2 more, $2 over the limit. They denied her for $2, y'all.
That's ridiculous.
$2. But milk is $30.
Right. Wow.
And then some parents have went to jail because they try to make the milk stretch and add a little more water, and the child end up getting sick. But parents trying to do whatever it takes to survive, to make it last.
So you are giving people a system to live in, and you expect it to work for them when guarantee it doesn't work for them. And so when they do whatever they can to survive or to make things happen, for their families, then now they get ridiculed. Now they get put away. That's about like the parent. And again, because she wanted her kid to be in a better school district. You remember? She
used another address, and she went to jail. What kind of foolishness?
I just what you gotta help me on this.
Look at that. So Title I schools have no resources. I graduated from a Title I school. Didn't know it was Title I. I knew I lived in poverty until I was grown. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Because where I'm from, if you got a house, you got 2 cars, and you got a good job, that's all that you all right. So I did not know that we were struggling.
Yeah.
My parents hide it very well. They make sure my needs were met. Some of my wants was given. But I knew about this poverty guideline and all that until I got older and start learning some things on learning some things. But schools get money based on home ownership. So if you live in an area and everybody is renting, there is no money going into that school.
Right. Teach.
So
things you find out. Come on.
So there's no money going into the school because there's no home ownership. The people who own the homes in the community where I come from sent their kids to other schools.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I know in Columbia where you got to be zoned for a particular school. And if you don't want your child to go to that school, you got to write letters. You got to do school. You just got to go through too much or whatever. But what happens is, when it's a better school and you have the means or the transportation, you're going to go and you're going to make sure that your children go to that school. But the people who don't have a choice, they're going to really suffer.
Yeah.
Because the resources is not going to be in that community.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. When you start getting the knowledge of what's really going on, it then makes the difference of how, you should think about it and how you should handle, the business of it. Again, like you said, I didn't know we were in poverty. We pretty much a couple of years ago, shout out to my cousin Wanda Govan, who's an educator in Darlington County. But there was a documentary done on in Darlington County on Hartsville, South Carolina. It was featured on PBS and all of that. I remember the camera crew coming. They came to our family cookout. They were there. But then when I started looking at, we're about to be featured on TV. Well, City of Hearts are about to be featured on TV, and they start talking about the numbers and the areas and how much poverty this is, the how much a person is making, and all these different type of things. Then he's like, what? Because again, like you said, you didn't know, and that's why I say, to a certain degree, again, because when you start talking about that word poverty, and that definition is based upon insufficiency of amount as well. But again, mindset as well. I didn't know, like you said, we didn't know. You thought you were good as long as you ate.
So in essence, we can say statistics say we were in poverty, but we weren't in poverty.
Right.
So I get that.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Because some people look at poverty also as a behavior as well. You see what I'm saying? And so, I just think that when we start talking about, looking at, the change of it and what we can do, it has to start somewhere. And I know there are programs out there. I mean, there are a lot of, programs out there to help teach, on finances. But again, like you said, how you gonna teach me how you gonna teach me on finance and how to manage the money when I'm not only making but so much.
And then when you get the money, then you mismanage because you don't know what to do. I love to tell people this. Steve Harvey said it best. Money only enhances who you are. Right. So if you was a fool without money, you're gonna be a fool with money. Right. If you didn't know how to manage money when you didn't have it, and you ain't gonna know how to manage it when you have it.
Yeah, and you can't. And again, it's up to you to make the change. We're getting ready to get out of here, but it's up to you to make the change. And when I say it's up to you to make the change, you have to make up in your mind to go get the help that you need in order to for your life, your financials to be better. You got to do that. I mean, there's a lot of programs out there, a lot of opportunities. Again, even if some of you those are African Americans, we start talking about poverty as well. There's a few Black-owned banks. I know Killer Mike has represented a lot and shown put out there the Black-owned banks in Atlanta, but definitely there's been one. And I think they changed the name recently, Octus in Columbia. It used to be First Community Bank.
Oh yeah,
yeah, downtown Columbia. And then also First Horizon as well bank, and those in Columbia. Now there's some churches that have banks. Brooklyn Baptist Church, they have their own credit union as well, but I think it's strictly for members as well. My church is a part of a bank. I pastor in Aiken out of Augusta, South Carolina, which is a United Neighborhood Federal Credit Union. The difference with that, it's based upon churches. You have to be affiliate with the church to become a member, but they have opportunity as relates to second chance and helping you build your credit, helping you, training you, having trainings to help you with your financials.
And what I want to add, let's go back to traditional banking. Cash App is not a bank.
Yeah,
it's not a bank. It's not a bank. It's not a bank.
Right.
It's not a bank.
Right.
You may use it, but it's not a bank.
Right.
And the reason why I'm saying going back to traditional banking, you need traditional banking for home ownership and getting businesses, loans, and different little things. Certain things you need traditional banking for, and you need a record of where you spend money and different little things. So,
I'm with you.
Things have been created to help make other things convenient, and I get it. But let's not get so consumed with that we miss the point, or we mix the picture and end up getting stuck in areas that we can't come from. Like Cash App give you the option to make your check a direct deposit and all of that.
But it ain't a traditional bank.
It's not a traditional
bank. It ain't nothing
bank.
like going in and speaking to that teller and them knowing you.
If your money get taken from Cash App, I don't know what they got in place, but I know at my bank, South Carolina State Credit Union, if somebody take my money, they gonna give it back. Like
they gonna work that thing out for you. But again, just going back to traditional banking, man, relationships. I remember, my parents, my grandmother, having those relationships with those banks in the city and knowing people, it helped. I'm trying to tell you, they knew you. When they knew your name, it helped build the relationships.
Yeah, that's the concept. Smaller communities, Yeah, you can have
I
that.
think you can have that even in cities.
You
If you go to that consistent place, if you're there and you have build a relationship, build a rapport, and they know your name.
But nowadays, everything is technology. We don't really
Yeah,
go in the
right.
bank. It's behind the machine. I don't know who the teller is. I know
You
who the
start-
teller is back home,
Right,
but I don't know who it is here.
You're right.
Times have changed.
Times have changed.
Now, I put this little point out there, and I put income taxes. This is the most money some people will ever receive at one time.
Right.
It helped families to catch up, but their jobs don't pay them enough to maintain.
Oh wow, that's good. It helps them to catch up, but the jobs don't pay them enough to maintain. You talking good code, doesn't it?
You know, when it comes about money, I know.
I
you
can
get
go on. We go on. That'll be another episode. We'll go a little deeper on that. Listen, man, I just want to thank again you all for listening and tuning in as we continue to talk about what are we up against. We dealt with poverty. It's a lot to deal with in that, but I hope that from all of this, you can change. We can all change our mindset to try to be better, even in a unjust system.
Even in this time, right?
And so to be better. So again, always it's a pleasure to be with you all. Again, I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. We are my people's keeper. You guys have a great night. Be blessed. Peace.
Whatever happened to, am I my brother's keeper, huh? You know what happened to it.
It became my people's keeper. A moment of information, impartation, and inspiration to uplift, encourage, and most importantly, empower. So am I my brother's keeper? Yes. Am I my sister's keeper? Yes. Oh yes, I am my people's keeper.